In 1973, two children on the Isle of Wight had a rather unique encounter with a strange clown or scarecrow-like entity. A narrative of the case was later published in the Journal of the British UFO Research Association, or BUFORA, which remains the only source on the episode. While the children's story is impossible to verify, it is an enlightening glimpse into childhood entity encounters, real or imagined, and hints at the possibility that some of these encounters may actually take place in an alternate reality. On a Tuesday afternoon in the first half of May 1973, two children were out playing near a village south of Sandown, on the British Isle of Wight. One was a 7-year-old girl known to the public as Faye. The other was an unidentified boy of a similar age. Around 4 p.m., the pair heard an odd wailing noise that was similar to an ambulance siren. They followed the sound, cutting through a golf course to reach a swampy meadow by the small Sandown airport. The siren noise had stopped at some point after their arrival, but as the children crossed a wooden footbridge, they saw an odd humanoid figure emerge from under it, wading in the creek water. The figure fumbled with a book it was holding, dropped it in the creek, then splashed around trying to pick it up again. Next, they watched as the figure hopped away, pulling its knees high into the air with every jump. It hopped its way over to a 2-story windowless metal hut, similar to those used on construction sites. The children walked on and got just over 50 yards, or 46 meters, from the hut, when they saw the figure standing outside again. This time it was holding what looked to be a black microphone connected to a white cord. The children described the entity as standing almost 7 feet tall. It was proportioned like a human, but with no neck. Its eyes were simple triangles, and its nose was a brown square. It had paper white skin with a circle on either cheek, and yellow lips that never moved. On top of its head was a pointed yellow hat with a bit of red hair drooping down onto its forehead. A round black knob topped the hat, and what looked to be wooden antennae stuck out from either side. The hat connected directly to the red collar of a long-sleeved green tunic over white pants. The entity's hands had only 3 fingers, and its feet 3 toes. The hands were covered in blue gloves, while its feet were bare and white. Some type of wooden slat stuck out from its sleeves and the legs of its pants, and its clothes had many rips in them. Suddenly, the children could hear the alarm sound again, but louder. This scared the boy, who started to run. But just as he took off, the alarm stopped, and a friendly-sounding voice asked, "Hello, are you still there?" Faye indicated that the figure may have put the microphone to its mouth when the voice was heard. The children noted that the voice sounded as though it was coming from someone standing very close to them, and not necessarily from the figure or the hut. Reassured by the friendly tone, the children approached again. The figure introduced itself by writing onto a notebook, "Hello, and I am all colors Sam." It's unclear if this was meant to be the entity's name, but here we'll call the thing Sam. Faye read aloud as Sam pointed to each word at a time. She said that Sam wrote in large hand, likely indicating capital letters. She also noted that the words were arranged out of order. The children walked closer and heard a voice again. Sam's lips remained still, and its words were poorly enunciated, much as someone would sound if they spoke without fully opening their mouth or moving their lips. Sam asked some questions of the children, which prompted them to ask it questions back. They asked why its shirt and pants were ripped, to which Sam responded that it had no other clothes. The children asked Sam if it was a man, to which it answered no with a chuckle. They then asked Sam if it was a ghost, and it replied, "Well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way." The pair then asked it what it was, if not a man or ghost, to which Sam simply responded, "You know." Sam went on to tell them that it had no name, despite the earlier introduction. It also informed the kids that others like itself existed, and even drew a rough sketch of what another one of its kind looked like. Lastly, Sam claimed to be afraid of humans, fearing harm. While the children were speaking to Sam, they could see two workers working on an electrical pole nearby. These men paid no attention to the scene before them, as if they couldn't even see it. After this exchange, Sam invited the children into the metallic hut that it had claimed it had just finished building. The pair entered by crawling through a flap, finding themselves in a room with some basic wooden furniture, an electric heater, and a high ceiling. The walls were covered in what looked to be a blue-green wallpaper, which itself was covered in a pattern of dials, but it's unclear if these dials were merely a design on the wallpaper or real mechanical fixtures. The children claim that there was also a small upper-level room with a metallic floor, but it's unclear if they went up there. Sam took off its hat after entering the hut, and the children could now see its round, white ears and sparse brown hair. The children spoke to Sam inside the hut for 30 minutes or longer. During this time, Sam told them that it eats berries that it gathers in the late afternoon, and claimed to drink purified river water. It also mentioned a camp it visited on the mainland. In addition, Sam showed the kids something that Faye described as a conjuring trick. Sam put a berry in its ear, then thrust its head forward until the berry reappeared at one of its eyes. With a few more thrusts, the berry disappeared again, then reappeared at its mouth. The pair eventually said goodbye to Sam, then left the hut to walk back home. While passing through the golf course, they told a man that they'd seen a ghost, or someone dressed as one, then returned home. It was 3 weeks later on June 2nd when Faye told her father, known only as Mr. Y, about the strange events. He was hesitant at first to take the story seriously, but he eventually followed up with the boy, who confirmed his daughter's account of events. Mr. Y visited the location of the encounter, but there was no trace of the metal hut, or any sign of Sam. Though he hadn't told Faye, Mr. Y had some anomalous experiences of his own in the preceding 2.5 years. Around 7 p.m. on October 20th, 1970, Mr. Y was driving to see a friend in the town of Ryde on the northeast coast of the Isle of Wight. As he was headed eastward, he spotted a very large lit object in the sky to his right, roughly halfway between the road and the nearby village of Bembridge. Mr. Y stopped his car to watch the object as it hovered over swampland connected to the Yar River, drifting around apparently aimlessly. It was quite low to the ground and completely silent. Mr. Y described the object as having 7 or more large spherical lights arranged in a wide ring around its circumference, each like a bright red cherry. There was also a turquoise light and a white light in between each of the red ones. Mr. Y resumed driving, at which point the UFO followed parallel until he left the town he was passing through. The craft then moved perpendicular to his direction of travel, until it was positioned directly to his rear, roughly 300 yards behind. At this point, it slowly descended and started drifting around over top of some hedges. Mr. Y stopped again, then took out a flashlight to try to signal to the craft. Farther away, the object seemed smaller, and only 4 red lights were discernible, which now appeared to be slowly rotating. Mr. Y signaled to the craft for 10 minutes, while it weaved backwards and forwards, as Oliver put it. Mr. Y drove on, and the red lights remained visible even after he arrived at his friend's house. When Mr. Y's friend had joined him outside, the two watched as the craft darted in and out from behind the different trees. One of the men said that it was as if the UFO were playing hide and seek. Mr. Y then drove on to the town of Ryde when he lost sight of it. For at least several months afterwards, Mr. Y claimed that he spotted several other singular flying balls of red light that hovered in place or followed him. On the 1st of March 1972, Mr. Y had another unusual experience while out at Compton Bay on the southwestern coast of the island. Between 9 and 10 p.m., an unanticipated tidal surge forced Mr. Y up onto a cliffside, where he was stranded until the tide receded. He then noticed two yellow lights just under the surface of the water, roughly 40 feet or 12 meters from his location, peering up at him like the eyes of some horrible sea monster. Mr. Y had never shared a word of his unusual experiences with Faye before her own experience with Sam. However, he believed that her experiences were related to his own, and he felt the need to tell someone about them. Mr. Y eventually shared his and his daughter's experiences with Leonard Cramp, Vice President of the British UFO Research Association's Council. Cramp suggested Mr. Y contact Norman Oliver, editor of the Bufora Journal. Mr. Y provided Oliver with a detailed account of all related events, and Oliver condensed the narrative for the January 1978 issue of the journal. The Bufora article contains a few artist renderings of the scenes described, and a drawing of Sam appeared on the journal cover. It's unknown how accurate these illustrations are, since it's unlikely that they were ever shown to Faye or Mr. Y. There is at least one error in these drawings. The hut has windows, despite the article stating that it was windowless. Although Sam stated that it was not a man, it is mostly referred to with male pronouns in the original publication. It's possible that Sam's voice, name, or size led Faye to conclude that it was a male. The case has received limited attention, perhaps due to its strange and boundary-defying nature. The encounter is mentioned in the 1991 book Modern Mysteries of Britain by Janet and Colin Board, and has received some coverage online. Debunkers have largely ignored it, likely due to the scarcity of evidence. With no corroborating witnesses and no supporting physical evidence, it's impossible to know the truth of the narrative contained in the Bufora article. Of course, the children could have been misremembering a different encounter, or lying altogether. But while young children at ages 4 and 5 are known to lie or make up tales, at older ages, these fabrications are more often told to serve some purpose. However, Faye's story served her no purpose, and yet she was insistent on its truth, even weeks after it supposedly happened. Her father said that the level of detail that she conveyed, and her persistent commitment to the truth of the narrative, convinced him that she was being honest. Neither Faye nor Mr. Y have ever spoken publicly about their experiences again, and so no more has been learned of the strange entity at Sandown. It's unknown what became of the witnesses, and Norman Oliver passed away in 2022. Whatever notes he took on Mr. Y's deposition are now lost, if not destroyed, and no file on the case exists in Bufora's archives. It's possible that some descendant of either Faye, the boy, or Oliver will step forward with more documentation. Until then, the investigation is at a standstill. The case is highly unique in many ways, but as with most anomalous experiences, there are similar ones on record. For example, when anomalous John Keel was doing research for his book, The Mothman Prophecies, he heard a story from Leonard Elmore of Duncan Falls, Ohio. In October 1966, the 72-year-old Leonard was out for an early morning walk when he saw an unfamiliar L-shaped building in the middle of the field. Leonard got close enough to discover that it looked like a galvanized iron shed, though it had no windows or doors. Suddenly he heard a male voice come from the shed, saying, "Don't run, don't run." Leonard immediately walked home to retrieve his rifle, then returned to the location, only to find the shed now gone. The fact that the electrical workers didn't appear to see the interaction is reminiscent of another case from Riverside County, California in 1955. According to a report from the Center for UFO Studies, on August 22nd, a group of 8 or 9 boys were playing in a family garden when they saw several strange UFOs appear. But when a parent came out to look, the UFOs would disappear, and at least once that afternoon, one of the parents saw nothing, even when the objects were still visible to the kids. The kids also saw unusual-looking entities that spoke to one of them and hypnotized another. The whole encounter so disturbed the kids that one was still crying an hour later when a reporter arrived. The Sandown case contains elements of what astronomer J. Allen Hynek dubbed high strangeness, which is a way of describing cases with a large number of elements that can't be explained by conventional science. Sam itself was highly strange. Many have debated what it meant by all colors Sam, especially considering that it later claimed to have no name. All colors might have been meant to invoke the visible spectrum. Perhaps it meant that it somehow exhibits the full range of visible colors, or every wavelength on the electromagnetic spectrum. All colors may have also been a reference to the chromatic scale in music. The term chromatic comes from the Greek word for color, meaning the scale encompasses all colors, or all 12 notes in an octave. Of course, all colors may also have a much more literal interpretation, referring only to the being's colorful appearance. The fact that the children were lured away by sound invokes the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Interestingly, the word pied is used to refer to something with 2 or more colors. One of the greatest difficulties associated with this case is in classifying Sam. Commentators on the case have variously referred to Sam as an alien, a clown, a ghost, a robot, or a cryptid. Ufologists such as Jacques Vallée and John Keel have argued that the appearance of anomalous entities in UFOs is cobbled together from existing cultural images. The children may have been subconsciously projecting these cultural images onto whatever they were seeing, or perhaps the entity itself was engaged in a crude imitation of a human, either through costume or some more technical process. In particular, Sam's appearance seems to have been a mashup between a clown and a scarecrow. There were several prominent books, films, and television shows available in England at the time that featured clowns and scarecrows as characters, and these were archetypes long before phase time. One type of clown popular in vaudeville and minstrel shows in the 19th century was known as the tramp, and was always dressed in torn, dirty clothes. Left to the elements, scarecrows would also naturally develop tattered clothes, and the scarecrow character in The Wizard of Oz, probably the most famous depiction of a scarecrow in Western culture, had tears in his clothes as well. He also had straw protruding from his sleeves and pant legs, just as Sam had wooden slats protruding from the same places. The pointy hat and the covered neck and collar are also reminiscent of the scarecrow character. It's as if Sam's image was constructed based on characters in pop culture that children felt safe and happy around. Mr. Y commented in the Bufora article that he felt that the kids were taken into a bubble of alien reality that Sam had created, hence why the electrical workers didn't see anything. Many witnesses to UFOs, cryptids, and other anomalous entities often report decisive changes in their perception before encounters. For example, many people report that the world around them goes completely silent, or that the air itself feels different. Others report time distortion, memory disruption, or unusual sounds or odors. English anomalist Jenny Randles coined the term Oz factor in 1987 to describe the altered sense of reality surrounding many anomalous experiences, while Jacques Vallée has referred to this phenomenon as reality transformation. Perhaps the reason that neither Sam nor its hut were ever seen again was because both only existed in this transformed reality. The case of the Sandown ghost clown, as it is often known, remains an anomaly even within the field of anomalistics. The children's experiences were similar to UFO abduction and ghost sightings, but were dissimilar to both in just as many ways. More so than any other encounter, the Sandown ghost clown is a reminder to approach each and every case as its own unique experience, and to resist being overly rigid in our categorization. The case, and others like it, also suggest that whatever phenomenon is behind these interactions is reaching us in some alternate reality, or perhaps inside of our own minds. Want to see more from Think Anomalous? Remember to click the bell so that you get notified when we make new videos, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Think Anomalous is created by Jason Charbonneau. Research by Clark Murphy. Music by Josh Chamberlain.